Yesterday I hosted a 3-hour roundtable on aviation safety. Some 14 presenters were there and we heard a wide range of issues dealing with the safety that is not there in the Canadian aviation industry. The control the federal government has over the safety, which is something that Canadians have come to expect over many years, is simply falling apart. And in some respects, not simply falling apart, but deliberately changing in a way that is simply not acceptable. And what I heard yesterday with the testimony, there's a disaster in the making. And I don't want to alarm people, the flying public, but all of us, whether we fly in air taxis, charter aircraft, whether we deal with scheduled air carriers, want to ensure that the best possible systems are in place to protect our safety and to protect the safety of our loved ones. This is not happening and in fact is degrading every day. Aviation safety is being jeopardized in the name of profitability and in the case of the Department of Transport in cutting their own costs of providing the oversight that's required in this very complex, very important industry in Canada. There appears to be a culture at Transport Canada and the Transport Safety Board which is contrary to the best interests of public safety. Some of the people I heard from yesterday are here today to give their concerns. And joining me here today are Mr. Greg Holbrook, Chair of the Federal Pilots Association, Mr. Ian Braun, Secretary for Canadians for Accountability, and Mrs. Kirsten Stevens, an advocate for the safety of workers transported by air. As well, joining me is Member of Parliament for New Westminster, Mr. Peter Julian, who has led the fight over the last 2 years with the government over the Aeronautics Act, which would enfranchise within the government the safety management systems without the oversight that is really required to make sure that those work. So here today, based on the concerns that I have heard at the conference we had yesterday, based on the work that the New Democratic Party has done over the last 2 years on this particular issue, based on many of the other comments and concerns that have been raised by people across this country, I call for immediate public inquiry into the conditions of aviation safety, the new approach that Transport Canada is taking, and those things have to come together in a public fashion, and we need to assert the right of Canadians to have safe aviation. So, having said that, I'd like to bring forward Mr. Greg Holbrook.
Thank you. We're the Canadian Federal Pilots Association represents the inspectors that work for Transport Canada, and they have grave concerns for the implementation of safety management systems as put forward by Transport Canada. The International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, is the specialized agency of the United Nations that ensures the safe, efficient, and orderly conduct of international civil aviation. ICAO has standards and recommended practices that are recognized as necessary elements for the safe international air navigation, and contracting states such as Canada have signed on to conform to these standards, and reciprocal agreements internationally rely on conformance with these standards. We believe that Transport Canada's implementation of safety management systems is systemically flawed and does not meet the ICAO requirements. ICAO relies on a balance of systems. They rely on maintaining a system of checks and balances with rigorous regulatory oversight, conducting audits and inspections, and at the same time promoting safety management systems for operators to improve beyond the minimum regulatory requirement. However, ICAO does not advocate the allowance of audits and inspections to be eliminated from the program and let operators check things themselves. They require clearly a balanced approach. It's quite clear to us that this is not happening here in Canada. Transport Canada's approach is relies on the fact of eliminating the audits and inspection process that traditionally was done. They dismiss it as limited or no value, and they're relying on these new safety management systems to assure regulatory compliance. However, by their own admission, their own program of a safety management system clearly will not result in regulatory compliance, because it simply will not look at that aspect of the program. It will simply examine the air operator's safety management system to see if their system meets the requirements. It will not check for regulatory compliance. This causes great concern for us because we believe that that is only one tenet of what is required by international aviation standards, and Transport Canada is doing half the program and trying to present it as an additional layer, which is clearly not. We're concerned that this is going to create problems for Canada's standing as being recognized as internationally compliant with civil aviation requirements, and we would request that the parliamentarians advocate a real sober second think on this whole initiative that seems to be proceeding at a juggernaut pace. Thank you very much.